So, Pam,
Hey, can you hear me?
can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Can you
Can you
see
hear
the
me?
screen?
I do see the screen. The agenda is up.
Say again?
I can see the agenda. Is that the
Yeah,
screen
that
you're
yeah,
speaking of?
that's the one that's
Yeah.
all right. Sounds good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
It looks real pale. I tell you, he needs to slow down. He's doing too much. But I tell you what, boy, Steve said he was something else on that phone about South Point. He needs to get over that and move on.
And thank you for joining us. Today is a City of Hardyville City Council workshop, 205 Main Street, Hardyville, South Carolina, Tuesday, February 24th, 2026 at 10:40 a.m. Just as a reminder, this is a workshop. The rules of order are relaxed. Everyone can speak when they want to, but please respect the previous speaker and wait until they yield the floor before you jump in. Let's go with Mr. Gruber. Lead us away.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good afternoon, or good morning. So pleased to be able to stand before you today and present a couple of things for your consideration. The first thing that we are going to talk about today is an update to our employee policy handbook. So this is the document that we require all staff to sign, indicating that they understand what our expectations are about their performance as a member of our staff. And so this is a document that should be periodically reviewed. It should be updated as needed to make sure that we're current in terms of both of our practices and our policies. And so ultimately, I'm going to turn this over to Neil Parsons, Assistant City Manager, to kind of walk you through the process and how we went about developing these recommendations. And then we'll invite Pam to come up and discuss with you the policy changes that we are asking you to consider. And then ultimately, we'll turn it over to you for any questions and answers that you may have about this document. So with that, I'll invite Neil to come up and talk about how we went about creating this proposed draft for your consideration.
Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
These, as what we sent out last week for you guys to review was basically a copy of the employee handbook as been updated. And also we included a kind of a 2-sheeter white paper as far as process of what led us to this point. So as we know that we need to update the employee manual from time to time, periodically as needed, based on whether it's new things in place, change administrations, change of councils, something of that sort. So it had been, even though we've kind of done our periodical reviews in from time to time, the last one that updated was around that 21-22 year point. So it was it was needed. So with this process, I mean, it's basically, we try to save the employees, try to save the city, try to save our resources, make everybody safe, and then also how to operate the organization and stuff as most efficiently as possible. So with that being said, I mean, the committee that was formed to kind of look at this included the deputy city manager, myself. We had the city clerk, we had the human resource director. We had the fire chief, we had the assistant police chief, we had the accounting manager. I'm just wanting to make sure, and for us to do this, I mean, when I actually looked at the calendar, I mean, this is a 12-month process, and it was like, wow. I mean, we actually took but this is a thorough review. The previous employee handbook was much longer. I mean, it had a lot of information in it. So our task was to make sure that we kind of got more precise with the information and stuff presented. So we went page by page, line by line, and went through that review process for 12 months. And with that same period, what we did was we utilized the template from MASC that they said, this is what we recommend. We also looked at some of our neighboring municipalities, some of their templates and stuff as well, some of their actual approved plans, just to make sure that we were on the same page. We know we're a growing city. Things have changed for us quite a bit. And, and we were pretty comfortable that our existing plan actually covered a lot of the information, but we had to kind of go through the process, kind of tidy that up and get to the point and stuff where you got a product in hand and stuff now. During that meantime, I mean, we had those members stuff working on that work group committee. The city manager, we would ask him, bring him in from time to time to review, give us direction and stuff as needed. And so we include him as much as possible. When we had our draft and stuff done, we also had a labor attorney and stuff take the time and stuff, which is paid through our partnership with Smurfit Smith. They went through and actually identified some things and stuff as far as improvements. We went through, we made the recommended changes and stuff there. Still made sure that it's still in line with what the city and stuff moving forward. Then also we took it to the department directors. They also reviewed it. and made some recommendations, and that group would go back through the document and review those recommendations and make a decision on whether or not that should be included or not. So with that being said, we're very, very happy with the product that we turned out. And I know that Pam will come up and talk about a little bit about the changes and stuff that was recommended. But I mean, before I sit down, any questions for me about the process? So.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mainly, did you make drastic changes or just kind of fine tune it from what it used to be?
It's mostly fine-tuned changes. I mean, we brought more clarity in place, more concisiveness in place, and made sure that document represented us moving forward the best we possibly could. So,
I do have a question. You know, as I went through it. Is this the place to, you know, technology's changing everything. Is this the place for social media, use of AI, any use of technology? Is this the place for it, or is that separate?
So what happens is that it basically ends up being, this is the employee handbook. So it does touch on some of those. And what happens with, but you've got further policies that detail further that captures more about the, you know, just the social media type policy or something of that sort. So we capture the highlights. We say most everything that social media says, but then there's actually a formal document too that says here's the policy or the SOPs outside of the employee handbook.
So that's a separate document.
Separate, but we do cover information here that does represent that. So yes, sir.
So perhaps, if I could make a suggestion, it be, since we do have a policy, put it as Appendix A or Appendix B.
Yeah,
whatever.
yes.
Because I think it's really important that we have very clear policy with the use of AI and the use of
Yes, sir.
social media, and that we all understand, including us up here.
Yes, sir.
You know, what it is, and, you know, what is good common sense.
And when we have a printed version of stuff that you all see in front of you, but also what we're going to do is move this into Power DMS, which is the online type portal that everybody can see. And it's going to be much easier for us to work through each of the sections, even to the appendices sections themselves, because we can go straight to that appendix. So,
Okay, thank you.
yes, sir.
I was just going to introduce you.
Oh, good morning, Mayor and Council. So, I don't have.
State your name and address for the public. I'm just trying to follow policy, fam.
Address 205 Main Street, Hardyville. So, social media, I did not put that in these couple of slides that I got up here, but we do have a section in the policy, and it talks about what our employees can and cannot do and how they should conduct themselves as far as social media is concerned.
Thank you.
So the first one we want to discuss is the open door policy dispute resolution. And what that is before we didn't have a way for employees to submit complaints or grievances. So we've added that to this new policy. And what it will do is it will foster an open communication, an environment of trust, mutual respect that creates a solid foundation for collaboration, growth, and high performance that leads to success. So what this policy does, it gives the employee the avenue to express their concerns. What we'd like them to do is first express those concerns with the department. And then if they're not satisfied with that, then they'll go to the next level in their chain of command, possibly to HR, and that will lead to Josh eventually if the problem is not solved at those levels. You have any questions about that?
I'm just going to add some
You wanna-
commentary.
okay.
So this is one area where we receive some guidance from the outside attorney. And just so that you kind of understand big picture, under state law, there is a mandatory requirement for county governments to have what's called a grievance committee. So it's a committee made up of staff members who will sit and formally hear grievances that are filed by staff for things like promotions, demotions, terminations, discipline, other similar matters like that. The recommendation from the labor and employment law attorney was that the city do not create something like that. One, because the statutes don't require it, and two, under our form of government, and Pam kind of alluded to it, my responsibility is to oversee all staff. And so if there is an internal dispute, ultimately that recommendation or report is going to come to me, and it's my responsibility to then take action on it, not the committee's. And so what we are proposing here is to have a process that allows for somebody to have essentially their concerns heard, but in a manner that keeps it within the council manager form of government and ultimately puts it back in my lap as the head of the organization to make a decision at the outcome. So just understand kind of the nuances between why we're proposing this open door policy rather than a formal grievance.
Aliens?
There we go.
Okay. Do you have any questions about this open door policy dispute resolution that we're, none? Okay.
Is that any difference than what kind of always has been?
Not particularly, it's just now being written down.
Okay.
Before we didn't have anything.
Okay.
This follows quite, in the corporate world, the same policies. Okay, that's fine.
So the next update is up under the travel policy, the per diem. Currently, we submit receipts for reimbursement, but here in this proposed version, we're asking that anyone who needs travel
Okay.
Oh.
Go
Okay.
back one, right?
Go back. Oh. So the per diem, say what?
You can grab that box and move it out of your way, Pam.
Okay.
Yeah, just minimize.
So what we're asking is that in the event of travel, that there is a pre-authorization from employees and staff. And they will get a check up front for their travel costs instead of having to keep up with all the receipts and turn them in after travel. It'll just make the process easier.
Is this applied to council?
No, sir. This is purely for employees. Council is treated separately in that any expenses related to your official positions, be it travel, training, reimbursement, what have you, those are provided separately under this policy. This is only for employees, and really what we're doing is we're changing how we go about providing reimbursement. So currently what we require is a staff employee, if they are in authorized training or travel, they were to get the receipts from their meals to bring them back and to submit them. I'm not a fan of that, primarily because that only puts more burden on our staff to track and reconcile to make sure that it is the right amount. There also could be situations where it creates perception issues for us. I'll try to give you a good example of that. If you go to a training in Atlanta because you're meeting with some federal regulatory agency and you decide that you want to go out to dinner at Hooters, that is certainly your right. I don't need to see your receipt for dinner at Hooters. I just need to know that if you're on travel and you get paid a reimbursement for the per diem rate that is in the Atlanta metro area, if you spend one breakfast, one lunch, and one dinner there, it's a fixed amount no matter where you go.
That was gonna be my next question.
Correct. So rather than basing it on reimbursements on actual cost, it's the formula for whatever metropolitan area you're in based upon the General Services Administration of the federal government. They identify all of the lodging rates and all of the per diem rates for meals and expenses. And then it just depends on how long you're spending there. And so first and last days are always 75%. So typically you'll catch breakfast and dinner, or you'll catch lunch and dinner for the first day, but not breakfast because you're traveling. And then vice versa, it would be breakfast and lunch, but not dinner because you're traveling. So it's a formula to try to be accurate, but to take away essentially the responsibility of tracking all receipts and then turning those in for reimbursement.
I did not know the government kept track of all of that, but they do.
So is there something wrong with Hooters? The way, you,
PC example,
you,
worse from there.
okay, okay.
If our citizens were to FOIA that, they might not appreciate we went to dinner at Hooters.
Okay.
It's been an issue in other places because they do make a deal.
Yeah. So, the finance department is asking that there's a 2-week turnaround on requests for travel that allows them time to process the check requests and whatnot.
Let me make sure I understand one thing about the per diem. What I heard you say, Josh, is there's a menu for each place that people go, and that would be based on that, and that's what people would use.
Yeah, give you a good example of that. If we had travel that was up in Bishopville, the cost of buying a meal there is going to be cheaper than what it would be if you were in Washington, D.C. And so the General Services Administration publishes a schedule, and it's based typically upon metropolitan areas. But depending upon where you're traveling, you just look up what the per diem rate is for that particular location, and then you just plug it into the travel authorization form.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
I didn't know that was possible, but that's pretty interesting.
Just to chime in on that too, our document has the links built into that. So they'll click on the link, it'll pop it up that shows them. So they're not out searching and stuff for this information. It's all available at their fingertips. So, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be available on the electronic version of that when it's put in the Power DMS. Okay, next we want to talk about bereavement. During our research and during this time of updating the policy, we found that our counterparts had increased their bereavement days from 3 to 5. And we felt like that was a necessary change. It will allow our employees to grieve or breathe a little bit while they're trying to handle affairs during the time of that time of need. And also, we're suggesting that the bereavement day match the schedule. Like if I'm a firefighter, I get a 24-hour bereavement day. Or if I work for police at 12 hours, I get a 12-hour bereavement day. And then our regular full-time employees would get the 8-hour day for 5 days. Any questions about changes to the bereavement? No?
It does, and it helps morale and stuff with somebody's in.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's one of those things that will come up, and what we're seeing is the average amount of time that it takes to typically travel somewhere, to have a viewing, to have a funeral, to then, sometimes you have to work on the estates of the people that have passed, and that takes time, and so we want to we're not trying to short anybody time. We want to give them an adequate amount to allow them to focus on their families, and so that's what's really behind this change.
I like the idea that it's being set up based on their normal working day, the 8, 12, or 24.
To make it
That
fair.
makes sense. It makes it even for each position. The clarity is there.
I have a curiosity question, not a judgmental one. Is there a definition of what type of family member,
It's immediate family. What it does not include is like cousins, aunts, uncles. But when you have children, your spouse, your in-laws, those are included. Yeah, step-in-laws. Stepchildren. Yes, yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just curious.
To expand on what the mayor has started, there will be situations where somebody may not have been raised by parents. It could have been a grandmother, or it could have been her aunt or uncle. We do recognize that fact.
Yes.
We do. So under the section as currently drafted, it would be for the funeral member of an immediate family member, which is defined as a spouse, a parent, a child, a grandparent, a grandchild, brother, sister, parent-in-law, grandparent-in-law, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, step-parents, stepchildren, stepbrothers, stepsisters.
It's just how it is, the dynamics of the family have
Right.
changed, and we have to realize.
Okay. Any more questions on bereavement? Here's the big one, PTO changes. So what you see on the screen is what we have currently, under that first column is broken out 0 to 10 years, and it takes 2 paychecks, 1 day and 4 hours to earn, a day off. So what we're proposing, which would be on the right-hand side, is that for retention purposes, we move it from 0 to 10 years to 0 to 5 years. And what this will do, it will increase the amount of PTO earned for non-exempt 40-hour employees and non-exempt 43-hour, non-exempt 53-hour employees by 1 hour. And it will also, what we're proposing makes it fair to public safety because of the difference in their shift schedules. Like if you have a firefighter that works 24 hours and he's not even earning a day in a pay period. So it would align and be more fair to public safety if we made this change.
Yeah, what we kind of came across is our prior schedule was really based around an assumption that there was an 8-hour day. And that's obviously not the case for our public safety personnel. And so from a proportional standpoint, they were not accruing leave at the same rate as 8-hour employees were. And so the changes to this calculation have been done so that proportionately those two things would be in balance, and that does result in an increase. And in a moment, I'm going to ask John Boyle to come forward, and who's going to talk about kind of what the financial impacts of that change are. But this is definitely the biggest change from a policy standpoint that we are proposing in this round. But happy to answer any questions that you may have about why we're looking at proposing this.
Can we ask a question about this right now?
Yes.
The accrual of time, and then vacation. My question is there the option you hear in a lot of companies, if you don't use it, you lose it, meaning that we want people to take vacation and we don't want the responsibility of all that accrual. So when someone resigns, we find out that we owe them 100 hours of
Right.
vacation things. And I'm curious where we are with that.
So in our current policy, our employees are required to take 40 hours in the year. So that's a requirement. If they don't take that, then I believe they do lose that. So,
So it's use it, lose it.
yes.
We do have that, but there's also some guardrails that are put in place. Now, this does get a little bit complicated because we have some legacy employees that were under prior programs, because this has been changed by councils over time. And so what our current policy says is if you were hired prior to January 1st, 2018, you can accrue up to a maximum of 720 hours. After that point is when you hit the use it or lose it. And so we do certainly allow for a very large accumulation for everybody else who was hired after that date. The maximum accrual hours is 480 hours. So while this would change the rate at which the accruals are coming forward, it would not change the maximum amount of hours that you are allowed to bank. So one, we're going to encourage staff to use their leave time. I certainly stress with them maintaining a good work-life balance. We have leave, that's why we provide it. And we want to avoid a situation that I've seen in other jurisdictions, which is primarily in some of your more senior staff, because they're accruing at a rate that is higher than other staff members. They reach a point where their schedules are so busy that they can't take leave, but they don't want to lose the leave either. And so you basically lose that employee for the entire month of December because they're trying to use their leave before they lose it. And that's not effective for us from an operational standpoint. And so I'm going to be working with staff to make sure that they are taking their leave throughout the year because we provide it. And the city had the foresight to offer a leave buyback program. It is not at dollar for dollar. It is less than $1. I think it's 80 cents on the dollar. 85 cents on the dollar. but it's an opportunity for an employee to say, if you don't want to use that time, you still don't necessarily lose it. You can cash that in at a reduced rate.
So an employee can accrue 480 hours. Is that the total life of their employment?
Yes.
For non-public safety. Public safety, I'm sorry, because I needed to read down a little bit further. For all 8-hour-a-day employees, 480s is the max. For public safety employees, the 12-hour and 24-hour shifts, 504 is the maximum.
So that's the life cycle of the entire employment period?
If they go over the 5.4, they don't get to carry that over. They either use it or lose it, but they do get to accrue 504 hours. Yes.
So they accrue it, that's the max they get. If they get more than that, they have to use it or lose it.
That's correct.
That way it keeps the liability for the city down too. 'Cause
Sure.
I remember in the old days how it used to be.
Yeah, well,
John's going
Oh,
to
man.
John's going to touch on the financial implications of this, but we do maintain a specific line item in our budget for buyout purposes, and we adjust that every year based upon kind of what we anticipate from an employment standpoint.
I have one question. It falls within this. Is there a vehicle within our manual to allow employees to transfer PTO hours to other employees? I mean, it can happen with this, so we do that.
We do have a PTO donation policy.
Okay,
And
that's right.
it
that's
allows
important.
employees to donate to that employee in need as needed.
Okay,
Up to
thank
40
you.
hours.
So the policy that you have in front of you, we've always had that PTO donation
Yeah.
policy in place. We've kind of changed that up a little bit, saying that we have a PTO bank in place. And for instance, that way everybody has a chance. Don't matter who it is. If you want to give to that bank, they shouldn't be, because you're so and so, you're getting more hours, whatever. That way they have the ability to transfer to the bank. The bank has the ability to help whoever needs it at any given time. So.
This last slide is still PTO. It was just that all of our exempt staff, for the life of their employment, they only earn 9.28 hours. So we're suggesting that at the 10-year mark, they be able to advance in how many hours they can earn. Any more questions about PTO? I know you're excited to hear the money piece from John. John? Bull?
Thanks for the stellar introduction.
yeah.
Change your pen. Thank you. Good morning, council. It's good to talk to you.